I never teach my pupils. I only attempt to provide the conditions in which they can learn. Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. The fear of death is the most unjustified of all fears, for there's no risk of accident for someone who's dead. In matters of truth and justice, there is no difference between large and small problems, for issues concerning the treatment of people are all the same. The secret to creativity is knowing how to hide your sources. Anger dwells only in the bosom of fools. I think and think for months and years, 99 times, the conclusion is false. The 100th time I am right. Gravitation is not responsible for people falling in love. I speak to everyone in the same way, whether he is the garbage man or the president of the university. The only reason for time is so that everything doesn't happen at once. Time is an illusion. Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. Everything that is really great and inspiring is created by the individual who can labor in freedom. Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. Let every man be respected as an individual and no man idolized. I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity. Weakness of attitude becomes weakness of character. Before God we are all equally wise and equally foolish. I cannot conceive of a God who rewards and punishes his creatures, or has a will of the type of which we are conscious in ourselves. An individual who should survive his physical death is also beyond my comprehension, nor do I wish it otherwise. Such notions are for the fears or absurd egoism of feeble souls. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. A happy man is too satisfied with the present to dwell too much on the future. I am thankful for all of those who said no to me. It's because of them I'm doing it myself. Any man who can drive safely while kissing a pretty girl is simply not giving the kiss the attention it deserves. Man must cease attributing his problems to his environment and learn again to exercise his will, his personal responsibility. Only one who devotes himself to a cause with his whole strength and soul can be a true master. For this reason, mastery demands all of a person. Only two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the former. It has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity. Our separation of each other is an optical illusion of consciousness. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. Once we accept our limits, we go beyond them. One must not attempt to justify them, but rather to sense their nature simply and clearly. The person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever seen before. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into lazy habits of thinking. No. This trick won't work. How on earth are you ever going to explain in terms of chemistry and physics so important a biological phenomenon as first love? Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. The world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. Let every man judge according to his own standards, by what he has himself read, not by what others tell him. We dance for laughter, we dance for tears, we dance for madness, we dance for fears, we dance for hopes, we dance for screams. We are the dancers, we create the dreams. Imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. Science is a wonderful thing if one does not have to earn one's living at it. Science can only ascertain what is, but not what should be, and outside of its domain value judgments of all kinds remain necessary. The whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking. Pure mathematics is, in its way, the poetry of logical ideas. Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. Sometimes one pays most for the things one gets for nothing. Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death. You can never solve a problem with the same kind of thinking that created the problem in the first place. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Solitude is painful when one is young, but delightful when one is more mature. I believe that pipe smoking contributes to a somewhat calm and objective judgment in all human affairs. Few are those who see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts. Technological progress is like an axe in the hands of a pathological criminal. I like to think that the moon is there, even if I am not looking at it. To raise new questions, new possibilities, to regard old problems from a new angle, requires creative imagination and marks real advance in science. Life is a preparation for the future, and the best preparation for the future is to live as if there were none. One should never impose one's views on a problem. One should rather study it, and in time a solution will reveal itself. A man's ethical behavior should be based effectually on sympathy, education, and social ties and needs. No religious basis is necessary. Man would indeed be in a poor way if he had to be restrained by fear of punishment and hope of reward after death. My religion consists of a humble admiration of the illimitable superior spirit who reveals himself in the slight details we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble mind. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. True religion is real living, living with all one's soul, with all one's goodness and righteousness. Hunger, love, pain, fear are some of those inner forces which rule the individual's instinct for self-preservation. Any fool can know. The point is to understand. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. A question that sometimes drives me hazy: am I or are the others crazy? I have no particular talent. I am merely inquisitive. It is a miracle that curiosity survives formal education. The only thing more dangerous than ignorance is arrogance. If you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. Confusion of goals and perfection of means seems, in my opinion, to characterize our age. I believe that a simple and unassuming manner of life is best for everyone, best both for the body and the mind. A true genius admits that she knows nothing. Don't let your brain interfere with your heart. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. A new idea comes suddenly and in a rather intuitive way, but intuition is nothing but the outcome of earlier intellectual experience. The only real valuable thing is intuition. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. A ship is always safe at the shore, but that is not what it is built for. Life is change. Growth is optional. Choose wisely. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. The finest emotion of which we are capable is the mystic emotion. Relativity applies to physics, not ethics. All meaningful and lasting change starts first in your imagination and then works its way out. Imagination is more important than knowledge. The real problem is in the hearts and minds of men. It is easier to denature plutonium than to denature the evil spirit of man. The most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it is at all comprehensible. To understand the world, one must not be worrying about oneself. Everyone should be respected as an individual, but no one idolized. If a man aspires towards a righteous life, his first act of abstinence is from injury to animals. The man who regards his own life and that of his fellow creatures as meaningless is not merely unfortunate, but almost disqualified for life. Everything that can be counted does not necessarily count. Everything that counts cannot necessarily be counted. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. If you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. It is every man's obligation to put back into the world at least the equivalent of what he takes out of it. The value of a man resides in what he gives and not in what he is capable of receiving. The woman who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The woman who walks alone is likely to find herself in places no one has ever been before. All of us who are concerned for peace and triumph of reason and justice must be keenly aware how small an influence reason and honest goodwill exert upon events in the political field. Politics is for the present, but an equation is for eternity. Politics is a pendulum whose swings between anarchy and tyranny are fueled by perpetually rejuvenated illusions. Politics is more difficult than physics. Put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. Each of us is here for a brief sojourn, for what purpose he knows not, though he senses it. But without deeper reflection, one knows from daily life that one exists for other people. Every kind of peaceful cooperation among men is primarily based on mutual trust and only secondarily on institutions such as courts of justice and police. I have reached the conviction that the abolition of the death penalty is desirable. Reasons: 1. Irreparability in the event of an error of justice. 2. Detrimental moral influence of the execution procedure on those who, whether directly or indirectly, have to do with the procedure. Laws alone cannot secure freedom of expression. In order that every man present his views without penalty, there must be spirit of tolerance in the entire population. The only mistake in life is the lesson not learned. We cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. We still do not know 1,000% of what nature has revealed to us. The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. I have no special talent, I am only passionately curious. The thinking that got us to where we are is not the thinking that will get us to where we want to be. Example isn't another way to teach, it is the only way to teach. Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. You never fail until you stop trying. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. The hardest thing in the world to understand is the income tax. If A is success in life, then A is equal to X plus Y plus Z. Work is X, Y is play, and Z, keeping your mouth shut. In the middle of a difficulty lies opportunity. Real sign of intelligence isn't knowledge, it's imagination. Our death is not an end if we can live on in our children and the younger generation, for they are us. Our bodies are only wilted leaves on the tree of life. One thing I have learned in a long life, that all our science, measured against reality, is primitive and childlike, and yet it is the most precious thing we have. All of science is nothing more than the refinement of everyday thinking. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. I never think of the future, it comes soon enough. No amount of experimentation can ever prove me right. A single experiment can prove me wrong. I have deep faith that the principle of the universe will be beautiful and simple. Never give up on what you really want to do. The person with big dreams is more powerful than one with all the facts. I am neither especially clever nor especially gifted. I am only very, very curious. Without deep reflection, one knows from daily life that one exists for other people. Women marry men hoping they will change. Men marry women hoping they will not. So each is inevitably disappointed. When you trip over love, it is easy to get up. But when you fall in love, it is impossible to stand again. It is the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. Long hair minimizes the need for barbers. Socks can be done without. One leather jacket solves the coat problem for many years. Suspenders are superfluous. The value of achievement lies in the achieving. Only those who attempt the absurd can achieve the impossible. The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind. Intellectuals solve problems, geniuses prevent them. Teaching should be such that what is offered is perceived as a valuable gift and not as a hard duty. Be a loner. That gives you time to wonder, to search for the truth. Have holy curiosity. Make your life worth living. The bitter and the sweet come from the outside, the hard from within, from one's own efforts. Rejoice with your family in the beautiful land of life. Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. The mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Highly developed spirits often encounter resistance from mediocre minds. Finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Many go fishing all their lives without knowing that it is not fish they are after. We cannot despair of humanity, since we ourselves are human beings. The pursuit of knowledge for its own sake, an almost fanatical love of justice, and the desire for personal independence, these are the features of the Jewish tradition which make me thank my stars that I belong to it. But then, after all, we are all alike, for we are all derived from the monkey. A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. Those who are finer and nobler are always alone, and necessarily so, and that because of this, they can enjoy the purity of their own atmosphere. I lived in solitude in the country and noticed how the monotony of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind. This is a question too difficult for a mathematician. It should be asked of a philosopher when asked about completing his income tax form. I love to travel, but hate to arrive. The environment is everything that isn't me. The most beautiful gift of nature is that it gives one pleasure to look around and try to comprehend what we see. Play is the highest form of research. If we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research. The tragedy of life is what dies inside a man while he lives. Morality is of the highest importance, but for us, not for God. The higher the buildings, the lower the morals. The higher the buildings, the lower the morals. Only morality in our actions can give beauty and dignity to life. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Well-being and happiness never appeared to me as an absolute aim. I am even inclined to compare such moral aims to the ambitions of a pig. Failing isn't bad when you learn what not to do. Physics is an attempt conceptually to grasp reality as something that is considered to be independent of its being observed. In this sense, one speaks of physical reality. For us, physicists believe the separation between past, present, and future is only an illusion, although a convincing one. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. This disgrace to civilization should be done away with at once. Heroism on command, senseless violence, and all the loathsome nonsense that goes by the name of patriotism. It is important to foster individuality, for only the individual can produce the new ideas. Blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth. Assumptions are made, and most assumptions are wrong. The payment of the worker is not determined by the value of his product. Capitalism has brought with it progress, not merely in production, but also in knowledge. The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Any intelligent fool can make things bigger and more complex. It takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. It is the duty of every citizen, according to his best capacities, to give validity to his convictions in political affairs. Computers are incredibly fast, accurate, and stupid. Human beings are incredibly slow, inaccurate, and brilliant. Together they are powerful beyond imagination. A bartender is just a pharmacist with a limited inventory. Feeling and longing are the motive forces behind all human endeavor and human creations. The greater the doubt, the greater the awakening. Never do anything against conscience, even if the state demands it. A religious person is devout in the sense that he has no doubt about the significance of those superpersonal objects and goals which neither require nor are capable of rational foundation. To get to know a country, you must have direct contact with the earth. It's futile to gaze at the world through a car window. Future medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. Scientific research can reduce superstition by encouraging people to think and view things in terms of cause and effect. In scientific thinking are always present elements of poetry. Science and music requires a thought homogeneous. The effort to strive for truth has to precede all other efforts. The process of scientific discovery is, in effect, a continual flight from wonder. That deep emotional conviction of the presence of a superior reasoning power, which is revealed in the incomprehensible universe, forms my idea of God. Nonsense seems to sum up everything. We owe a lot to the Indians, who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. Make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. Try not to become a man of success, but a man of value. We all try to escape pain and death, while we seek what is pleasant. There is no logical way to the discovery of these elemental laws. There is only the way of intuition, which is helped by a feeling for the order lying behind the appearance. Innovation is not the product of logical thought, even though the final product is tied to a logical structure. Nationalism is an infantile thing. It is the measles of mankind. Games are the most elevated form of investigation. The leaves and the light are one. To punish me for my contempt for authority, fate made me an authority myself. Information is not knowledge. Intelligence is not the ability to store information, but to know where to find it. The pioneers of a warless world are the young men and women who refuse military service. Black holes are where God divided by zero. If the facts don't fit the theory, change the facts. Out of clutter, find simplicity. From discord, find harmony. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Cosmic religiousness is the strongest and most noble driving force of scientific research. He who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. His eyes are closed. Few people are capable of expressing with equanimity opinions which differ from the prejudices of their social environment. Most people are incapable of forming such opinions. The pride in intellect, or rather in the supremacy of the mind, is not restricted to those engaged in intellectual pursuits, but is a regular occurrence in all neurosis. You cannot prepare for war and peace at the same time. The true value of a human being can be found in the degree to which he has attained liberation from the self. Paper is to write things down that we need to remember. Our brains are used to think. The strength of the Constitution lies entirely in the determination of each citizen to defend it. Only if every single citizen feels duty-bound to do his share in this defense are the constitutional rights secured. One can only continue to expect to be read if one omits everything that is unimportant. People love chopping wood. In this activity, one immediately sees results. All that is valuable in human society depends upon the opportunity for development accorded the individual. The really valuable method of thought to arrive at a logically coherent system is intuition. Out of complexity, find simplicity. The only way to escape the personal corruption of praise is to go on working. When you examine the lives of the most influential people who have ever walked among us, you discover one thread that winds through them all. They have been aligned first with their spiritual nature and only then with their physical selves. The family that prays together is brainwashing their children. The framing of a problem is often far more essential than its solution. When a man sits with a pretty girl for an hour, it seems like a minute, but let him sit on a hot stove for a minute, a euro, and it's longer than any hour. That's relativity. Concern for man and his fate must always form the chief interest of all technical endeavors. Never forget this in the midst of your diagrams and equations. It is the theory which decides what can be observed. The truth of a theory is in your mind, not in your eyes. Each possession I own is but a stone around my neck. Humankind's desire for peace can be realized only by the creation of a world government. Overpopulation in various countries has become a serious threat to the health of people and a grave obstacle to any attempt to organize peace on this planet. My pacifism is not based on any intellectual theory, but on a deep antipathy to every form of cruelty and hatred. The goal of pacifism is possible only through a supranational organization. To stand unconditionally for this cause is the criterion of true pacifism. We must begin to inculcate our children against militarism by educating them in the spirit of pacifism. Our school books glorify war and conceal its horror. I would teach peace rather than war. One must shy away from questionable undertakings, even when they bear a high-sounding name. Small is the number of people who see with their eyes and think with their minds. The devil has put a penalty on all things we enjoy in life. Either we suffer in our health, or we suffer in our soul, or we get fat. Mystery is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. We know from daily life that we exist for other people, first of all, for whose smiles and well-being our own happiness depends. Life is a great tapestry. The individual is only an insignificant thread in an immense and miraculous pattern. Astrology is a science in itself and contains an illuminating body of knowledge. It taught me many things, and I am greatly indebted to it. If one day you have to choose between the world and love, remember this: if you choose the world, you'll be left without love. But if you choose love, with it you will conquer the world. Knowledge is realizing that the street is one way. Wisdom is looking in both directions anyway. Matter is spirit reduced to point of visibility. The distinctions separating the social classes are false. In the last analysis, they rest on force. Imagination is the highest form of research. The foundation of morality should not be made dependent on myth, nor tied to any authority, lest doubt about the myth or about the legitimacy of the authority imperil the foundation of sound judgment and action. There's no question dolphins are smarter than humans as they play more. The legs are the wheels of creativity. In order to be a perfect member of a flock of sheep, one has to be, foremost, a sheep. All means prove but a blunt instrument, if they have not behind them a living spirit. The search for truth is more precious than its possession. Nothing happens unless something moves. How I wish that somewhere there existed an island for those who are wise and of good will. The most important tool of the theoretical physicist is his wastebasket. Never underestimate your own ignorance. If you want different results, do not do the same things. It is always delightful when a great and beautiful idea proves to be consonant with reality. Our defense is not in our armaments, nor in science, nor in going underground. Our defense is in law and order. Nothing truly valuable can be achieved except by the unselfish cooperation of many individuals. You have to color outside the lines once in a while if you want to make your life a masterpiece. Strange is our situation here on earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to divine a purpose. You can't blame gravity for falling in love. The gravity is the first thing which you don't think. A model should be as simple as it can be, but no simpler. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. When you are courting a nice girl, an hour seems like a second. When you sit on a red-hot cinder, a second seems like an hour. That's relativity. The most practical solution is a good theory. The principal art of the teacher is to awaken the joy in creation and knowledge. Out yonder there was this huge world, which stands before us like a great eternal riddle. The intellect has little to do on the road to discovery. There comes a leap in consciousness, call it intuition or what you will, and the solution comes to you and you don't know how or why. Earth is the insane asylum of the universe. Everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. It may be possible to fight intolerance, stupidity, and fanaticism separately, but when they come together, there is no hope. In the past, it never occurred to me that every casual remark of mine would be snatched up and recorded. Otherwise, I would have crept further into my shell. Incompetence is the true crisis. A clever person solves a problem. A wise person avoids it. Quantum physics is certainly imposing, but an inner voice tells me that it is not yet the real thing. The theory says a lot, but doesn't really bring us any closer to the secret of the old one. At any rate, I am convinced that he does not throw dice. I do not believe that civilization will be wiped out in a war fought with the atomic bomb. Perhaps 2/3 of the people of the earth will be killed. Mankind invented the atomic bomb, but no mouse would ever construct a mousetrap. That little word I mistrust, and here's why. No man of another can say his I. Behind all agreement lies something amiss. All seeming accord cloaks a lurking abyss. The human spirit must prevail over technology. Curiosity is more important than knowledge. The theory says a lot, but does not really bring us any closer to the secret of the old one. I, at any rate, am convinced that he does not throw dice. Anyone can repeat a technical explanation they read in a textbook or blog post. Nothing will benefit human health and increase the chances for survival of life on Earth, as much as the evolution to a vegetarian diet. A theory can be proved by experiment, but no path leads from experiment to the birth of a theory. A single bomb of this type, carried by boat and exploded in a port, might very well destroy the whole port, together with some of the surrounding territory. What a sad era, when it is easier to smash an atom than a prejudice. I began the study of medicine, impelled by a desire for knowledge of facts and of man. The resolution to do disciplined work tied me to both laboratory and clinic for a long time to come. Peace cannot be kept by force, it can only be kept by understanding. The discovery of nuclear reactions need not bring about the destruction of mankind any more than the discovery of matches. Bear in mind that the wonderful things you learn in your schools are the work of many generations. All this is put in your hands as your inheritance in order that you may receive it, honor it, add to it, and one day faithfully hand it on to your children. When someone loves you, the way they talk about you is different. You feel safe and comfortable. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. If people are good only because they fear punishment and hope for reward, then we are a sorry lot indeed. Joy in looking and comprehending is nature's most beautiful gift. Your imagination is your preview of life's coming attractions. It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer. One definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If A equals success, then the formula is A equals X plus Y plus Z, where X is work, Y is play, and Z is keep your mouth shut. The world we have created is a product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking. If I had 1 hour to save the world, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and only 5 minutes finding the solution. Without changing our patterns of thought, we will not be able to solve the problems that we created with our current patterns of thought. 3 great forces rule the world: stupidity, fear, and greed. People like you and I, though mortal of course like everyone else, do not grow old, no matter how long you live, never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which we were born. Men marry women with the hope that they will never change. Women marry man with the hope that they will change. Invariably, they are both disappointed. That man is here for the sake of other men, above all for those upon whose smiles and well-being our own happiness depends. At the same time, as social beings, we are moved in the relations with our fellow beings by such feelings as sympathy, pride, hate, need for power, pity, and so on. Setting an example is not the main means of influencing another, it is the only means. I am an absolute pacifist. It is an instinctive feeling. It is a feeling that possesses me, because the murder of men is disgusting. That's passive-aggressively meant for a specific person, but I don't have the balls to actually tell them or anyone else how I feel to their face. I have become rather like King Midas, except that everything turns not into gold but into a circus. I believe that the horrifying deterioration in the ethical conduct of people today stems from the mechanization and dehumanization of our lives, a disastrous byproduct of the development of the scientific and technical mentality. We are guilty. Man grows cold faster than the planet he inhabits. Mozart's music is so pure and beautiful that I see it as a reflection of the inner beauty of the universe. My birthday affords me the welcome opportunity to express my feelings of deep gratitude for the ideal working and living conditions which have been placed at my disposal in the United States. What is there to celebrate? Birthdays are automatic things. Anyway, birthdays are for children. My birthday was a natural disaster, a shower of paper, full of flattery, under which one almost drowned. I am not only a pacifist, but a militant pacifist. I am willing to fight for peace. Nothing will end war unless the people themselves refuse to go to war. You do not really understand something unless you can explain it to your grandmother. If you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or objects. Live life to the fullest. You have to color outside the lines once in a while if you want to make your life a masterpiece. Laugh some every day. Keep growing, keep dreaming, keep following your heart. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Do not grow old, no matter how long you live. Never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which we were born. You have to learn the rules of the game, and then you have to play better than anyone else. 3 rules of work. 1. Out of clutter, find simplicity. 2. From discord, find harmony. 3. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. It is easier to denature plutonium than to denature the evil spirit of man. Man usually avoids attributing cleverness to somebody else, unless it is an enemy. If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. When I was young, I found out that the big toe always ends up making a big hole in the sock, so I stopped wearing socks. Even on the most solemn occasions, I got away without wearing socks and hid that lack of civilization in high boots. 100 times every day, I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received. Thinking is hard work. That's why so few do it. The difference between genius and stupidity is that genius has its limits. I know quite certainly that I myself have no special talent. Curiosity, obsession, and dogged endurance, combined with self-criticism, have brought me to my ideas. The future is not a gift, it is an achievement. Anyone who doesn't take truth seriously in small matters cannot be trusted in large ones either. Mathematics are well and good, but nature keeps dragging us around by the nose. How can it be that mathematics, being, after all, a product of human thought independent of experience, is so admirably adapted to the objects of reality? One must develop an instinct for what one can just barely achieve through one's greatest efforts. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. The level of intelligence are smart, intelligent, brilliant, genius, simple. We should take care not to make the intellect our God. It has, of course, powerful muscles, but no personality. I have tried 99 times and have failed, but on the 100th time came success. Nothing is more destructive of respect for the government and the law of the land than passing laws which cannot be enforced. If a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, what then is an empty desk a sign of? If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. The formulation of the problem is often more essential than its solution, which may be merely a matter of mathematical or experimental skill. Those people have seen something. What it is, I do not know, and I am not curious to know. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious, the fundamental emotion, which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. I believe in standardizing automobiles. I do not believe in standardizing human beings. Common sense is nothing more than a deposit of prejudices laid down in the mind before you reach 18. It is harder to crack a prejudice than an atom. The gift of fantasy has meant more to me than my talent for absorbing positive knowledge. Creativity is intelligence, having fun. If there is any religion that could respond to the needs of modern science, it would be Buddhism. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. The only thing that you absolutely have to know is the location of the library. Although I am a typical loner in my daily life, my awareness of belonging to the invisible community of those who strive for truth, beauty, and justice has prevented me from a feeling of isolation. People like us, who believe in physics, know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. A person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison, and through compassion, to find the reality of oneness. The value of an education is not the learning of many facts, but the training of the mind to think something that cannot be learned from books. Boredom is the highest mental state. Creativity is contagious. Pass it on. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination circles the world. It is impossible to get out of a problem by using the same kind of thinking that it took to get into it. An empty stomach is not a good political advisor. A life directed chiefly toward the fulfillment of personal desires will sooner or later always lead to bitter disappointment. It is my inner conviction that the development of science seeks in the main to satisfy the longing for pure knowledge. As far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain, and as far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality. Do not worry about your difficulties in mathematics. I can assure you mine are still greater. There is an atmosphere of well-sounding oratory that likes to attach itself to dress clothes. Away with it. Gravity is a response to geometry. We may in fact regard geometry as the most ancient branch of physics. Without it, I would have been unable to formulate the theory of relativity. Describing the physical laws without reference to geometry is similar to describing our thoughts without words. Possessions, outward success, publicity, luxury. To me, these have always been contemptible. I believe that a simple and unassuming manner of life is best for everyone, best both for the body and the mind. Two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity, and I'm not sure about the universe. Bureaucracy is the death of any achievement.